Previously in Sven, Jack climbed the magical bean tree, braving shadowy forests and falling under the spell of an evil shapeshifter. Now, with the monster's trident ready to strike, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Jack find a way out? In today's episode, a strange new ally appears. But will it bring help or greater danger? He wondered where he was. A song his dad often sang welled up in his heart, bringing with it a longing for home. Tears began trickling down his face as the sound of a door opening brought him back to the present. A towering figure entered the room. "Jack, you are awake," the giant woman said with a warm smile. Jack's heart somersaulted in his chest. The woman giant looked twice the height of a Svenian. Fully grown Svenians were all 6 feet tall. His eardrums began pulsating loudly, echoing the rhythm in his chest. Breathe. Try to be calm. He must be in the city of giants, he thought. But how did I get here? He struggled to get up, attempting to make a run for it, but his body responded instead with excruciating pain. His face contorted as he tried his best not to scream. "Do not show any signs of weakness. Do not show any signs of weakness," he thought fiercely, willing his body to obey. The giant gave a loud, melodious laugh. "Don't try to move, Jack. You are not strong enough yet. Rest a while," she said gently. "You have been stung by the crippling poison of the dragon's touch. I am Earth's sunset, the healer. You are in the city beyond time. You are safe here." Jack looked at her apprehensively. Safe? Nothing was as it seemed since he left Sven. He wished he had his axe. He tried to reach for his knife. He had been caught out before by the harmless, disarming manner of the old man turned dragon. "Yes," Earth's sunset said, reading his thoughts. "You were up against the most formidable foe of them all, from the land beyond the veil. You must have been given a gift that he is keen to have, or believes can disrupt his plans." Jack frowned as he thought about his axe. True, it was the best axe in the land of Sven, but what could a dragon who can change into a person, make donkeys magically disappear and reappear, want with an axe, despite how well it could cut wood? He thought. "Well," the giant woman said, "you will stay here for a while to rest, heal, and regain your strength before going to see the king." Jack's eyes widened and his heart skipped another beat. The memory of what the shapeshifter said about being made the king's dinner came rushing in. Terror ran through him like a bolt of lightning. Earth's sunset smiled. "Don't pay attention to any of the lies Fallen Morningstar has told you. He has deceived many who have come in search of answers or adventure. It is a great honor to have an audience with the king, but I see you have many doubts, and rightly so, after what you've experienced. All your questions will be answered, but for now, eat and rest. I will get you something to eat to help you regain your strength. Even if you're not hungry, eating something will greatly lift your spirits and do wonders." She then turned and left the room, leaving Jack alone with his thoughts. Jack wished with all his might to be back in Sven. He thought of his parents and the trouble they must be in. "I've failed them," he thought. "And now, I can't even move to save myself from being eaten by giants." Hot tears stung his eyes. He squeezed them shut and repeated fiercely, "Tenacities revealed under stressful times. Tenacities revealed under stressful times." He opened his eyes, but he was still in the room. Anxiety gripped him as he curled up in the bed, trembling uncontrollably as perspiration washed over him. At that moment, the giant woman returned, carrying a tray. On it was a goblet of what looked like milk, slabs of cheese, 2 massive pieces of bread, and a bunch of grapes. It looked enough to feed his whole family. Right then, Jack decided he would not eat any of the giant's food. He would not be caught out that way. She put the tray down on a nearby table, pulled up a massive chair and sat down. Seated, she looked about the height of a fully grown Svenian. She helped Jack sit up. He trembled as he willed his nerves not to give him away. She smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, Jack. Be at peace. Rest, eat, and be well." He began feeling a warmth that seemed to radiate from her. She glowed like the beautiful brilliance of the evening sun. For the first time, he began to notice her great beauty. Her hair looked like soft wool and glowed with the rich red-orange hues of the sunset. Her purple-blue skin shimmered with specks of gold, as if reflecting the light radiating from her hair. Her eyelashes and eyes glowed with the same brilliance of the sunset. Jack's fear and apprehension began to fade despite himself. She offered him a grape. He shook his head, determined to stand his ground, but his stomach betrayed him. She smiled and broke off some cheese. The smell was glorious. His stomach broke out into a full-on mutiny. His resolve collapsed. The taste of the food was unlike that of Sven. He ate and drank the creamy, milk-like drink she poured for him from the goblet. His eyelids suddenly felt heavy. Earth's sunset helped him to lay down. He fell asleep, dreaming of going to the end of the earth to meet the sun. Jack woke up to the sound of the door being closed. He sleepily opened his eyes to see Earth's sunset looking down at him. "I see you are awake," Earth's sunset said. "How was your rest? Feeling better?" she asked. Jack's brow furrowed as he thought, "Well, I don't know how I feel. I just woke up a second ago." Earth's sunset laughed. "Well, let's see if you can sit up." Jack pushed back the sheets and eased himself up. He felt a little weak, but he was able to pull himself up to sit in the bed by holding onto the bedpost. He tried wriggling his toes. They seemed fine. He threw the sheets off and turned himself around to get off the bed. He looked down. The bed was higher off the ground than he was accustomed. "You might want to step down onto the footstool to your right," Earth's sunset offered. Jack thought, "I have jumped from many trees in Sven. This is no big deal." Earth's sunset smiled and waited. Jack jumped off the bed, but to his dismay, his legs gave way under him. He cried out in surprise, flailing his arms helplessly, in an attempt to grab hold of something as he fell. Earth's sunset swiftly grabbed hold of Jack's hand and helped him to stand up. "Well, Jack, it seems you are feeling much better. Just a bit weak," said Earth's sunset. "Let me help you to the table. Sit here while I get you something to eat." It was then that Jack noticed he was ravenously hungry. He felt a hollow where his stomach should be. "I could eat a whole herd of cows," Jack thought as he felt his midsection. Earth's sunset laughed melodiously. "I will be right back with something for you to eat." Jack's eyes followed the giant woman out the door as she left. Despite himself, he could not help liking her. He sighed. He wondered apprehensively what had become of his parents, and if he would be able to find his way back home. He should let her know he was going to make his way back home right away. It was probably better, he thought, to cut his losses and return home. It was better to be in Sven, figuring out how to fix the problem rather than continuing to hang out here doing nothing, and opening himself up to more unknown dangers without solving the issue that had brought him here in the first place. Presently, the door opened, and Earth's sunset returned with a tray holding the largest green squash he had ever seen and a goblet of brown liquid. As she lowered the tray, he noticed that the top of the squash was cut off. The inside was hollowed out and filled with a bean stew that had green vegetables and chunks of squash. He looked at it suspiciously. He had never seen anything like this before in Sven. He wondered what kind of beans they were, and if they were the same beans that had caused the trouble he and his family were in. Earth's sunset smiled and said, "Give it a try. I think you will like it." The stew is made of healthy beans that are better than any meat stew you have had. It is meant to cure persistent hunger and revive failing strength. Jack continued to look at the strange meal. He looked at the goblet. That too looked weird. It is the nectar of life. This meal is the final remedy for your healing, Jack. You suffered a great injury. My instructions are to cure you of the dragon's crippling venom. You are to appear unaided before the king. The sting of the venom has been healed, but you are still not able to use your limbs without assistance. This treatment is meant to help you with that. Try it. Jack sighed. He wished he was home right now. He reluctantly picked up what looked like a cooking spoon, scooped up a little of the mysterious stew, and tasted it. It was delicious. His hunger came rushing in, and before he knew it, he was ladling more and more into his mouth, eating mouthful after mouthful. Before long, he began to get full. He put the spoon down, figuring he needed to leave room for the brown liquid. Earth's sunset pulled up a chair and sat down. She said, "Rest a while and let the stew do its work. Then you can finish the rest before you drink the nectar." Jack blurted out, "I really must be getting back home to Sven." "Well," said Earth's sunset, "I understand, but it would be difficult for you to go anywhere before your treatment is complete." "Is there any way to speed things up?" Jack asked. "I appreciate you helping me to get better, and the invitation to see the king, but I'm okay not going to see him. I've been away from Sven long enough. It has been 2 or 3 days since I left Sven, and I was only supposed to be away for a few hours," Jack said pensively. Earth's sunset looked grave. He had not seen her look that serious since they had met. "Jack," she said gravely, "you have been here recovering for 2 of Earth's weeks." Jack looked up in dismay. "Don't be alarmed, Jack. All shall be well when you see the king," Earth's sunset said reassuringly. Jack tried to get down off the chair, but soon found that his legs and hands still were not able to support the weight of his body. He crumpled to the ground. He was frustrated. "The treatment did not work," he said. Earth's sunset reached down and helped him up. "You should reserve your judgment until you have had the full treatment," she said. Jack sighed resignedly in disbelief, murmuring to himself, "I have been asleep for 2 whole weeks? How is that even possible?" The giant, standing nearby, responded in a calm, reassuring tone. "You are in the land beyond time, Jack, where darkness and light coexists side by side, outside the constructs of time, as it is in your Earthland. The curtains have been drawn to simulate Earth's night. You needed rest, while the poison was being arrested and neutralized. Now it must be expelled from your body." She gestured to a pail at the foot of the bed. "You'll find what you need over there." As if right on cue, an intense wave of nausea and tummy ache overtook Jack. He clutched his stomach, the sensation unmistakable. With the giant's steadying help, he made his way to the pail. The ordeal was unpleasant but necessary, leaving Jack weak but relieved that it was over. The giant nodded approvingly. "I will see to it that what remains of the poison is properly disposed of." Jack climbed into the bed. His mind had begun to feel clearer. He recalled the shapeshifter's words and wondered if, at some point, he would become the king's meal. He tried to piece together what had happened since he left Sven. The city beyond time? The king? Earth's sunset's cryptic comments only deepened the mystery. He felt a mixture of fear and determination bubbling inside him. He would not let his guard down again. He would go down fighting if needs be, he thought, as his eyelids grew heavier and heavier, and an overwhelming tiredness pulled a black canopy over him, getting the better of him. As Jack drifted deeper and deeper into sleep, he dreamt he was walking toward the end of the worlds, where the sun lived. A sense of happiness and hope swelled within him as he walked toward where he thought he had last seen the sun. The light radiating from beyond stretched before him as far as his eyes could see, with an outstanding brilliance. Filled with anticipation, he quickened his steps, and before long, he saw before him a magnificent city of glistening gold. It shone and sparkled with an unusual quality, as if both simultaneously radiating and reflecting its own light. The city's towering heights were so immense they seemed made for giants. But this was expected. He was in the land of giants, he mused. I wonder if the sun lives inside the city, he thought. As he drew closer to the city, he heard music, its melody at once enchanting and beautiful, drawing him in. Presently, he caught sight of its source. Off in the distance, near the city's massive gates, there was an extraordinary vision of what appeared to be a woman made out of glistening silver with golden hair, playing a golden harp. As he neared, he noticed that the woman was the size of a Svenian, with eyes that looked like emerald stones, sitting in settings of silver. He took in her remarkable appearance. As he grew closer, he noticed that her beautiful, long, golden, woolly hair that fell onto her lap seemed to have a life of its own as it moved with a subtle, hypnotic rhythm. Jack was captivated by the vision as he approached, his wonder growing with every step. She continued playing the harp as he approached. He hesitated, thinking to inquire of her about the name of the city and what kind of people lived there. But she seemed to be so utterly unaware of his presence that he decided against it. She seemed transported on the waves of the harp's melody to somewhere far away. Having resolved to move on, he continued walking past her. Then suddenly, she began singing his name in a lilting, otherworldly voice, which startled him. Jack. Jack. Startled, he spun around toward her. How do you know my name? He demanded apprehensively. The woman did not respond. She continued playing deftly on the harp and singing, adding new words to her song. Jack's on a journey. Jack's on a journey, she sang in a haunting tone. Who are you? Jack asked. And how do you know my name? The singer continued her song. Jack's on a journey. Jack's on a journey. Who do you seek? Who do you seek? Jack was more than a little startled. His words caught in his throat, and for a moment, he found himself unable to speak. The singer's song shifted once more. Jack, the tree climber, come closer, come closer. Her voice was hauntingly enchanting. Jack hesitated. He had promised himself not to get caught out again, but he found himself drawn to her, almost as if by an unseen force. He turned toward her, curiosity getting the better of him, each note pulling at him like a thread unraveling his will. Perhaps I will hear something about the people of the city, he thought. As he got closer to her, she turned to face him. Jack stopped in his tracks. He felt a little unsettled and looked away, his unease growing. This unusual person knew something of him, but he knew nothing of her. She was also uncommonly beautiful. The music filled the air and swirled around him like a lullaby, urging him to lay down to take a nap while he listened. His thoughts drifted. It reminds me of... Her voice cut off his thoughts with a note of urgency. Jack the tree climber, Jack the tree climber, what do you seek? What do you seek? She began singing again. He thought of his mission, but decided to keep his own counsel. He looked at her quietly instead. It was then that he noticed. Her lips did not move. It was as if the song and music were emanating from both within her and the harp, merging into an ethereal, otherworldly quality around them. He stared at her, astonished and mesmerized at the same time. She seemed to be smiling while she sang, Jack, the tree climber, look into my eyes. What do you see? What do you see? She sang. The emeralds seemed to glow and sparkle like living stones. Jack didn't want to stare, but he couldn't help but look into the beautiful sparkling gem. The glow of her eyes pulsed rhythmically, silently beckoning him closer like the pulling of the tide of the sea. Jack tried to look away, but the pull was too strong. He found himself gazing deeper into the emerald light, unable to resist. As he stared, within the depths of her eyes, he saw an image of her standing at the edge of the moon, handing out gifts to various girls and boys of his age. One girl received a golden harp that gleamed like the morning sun. A boy was given a golden hen with shimmering feathers. Another received a golden pot with a surface that gleamed like 1,000 tiny fiery flames. Then she held out a golden axe with a blade that glittered with the brilliance of the morning and evening stars, and spoke a single word to Jack: "Come." The summon seemed to both come from the image as well as the figure sitting in front of him. The summon came again: "Come." He felt even more sleepy as the harp continued to play its melody, growing more inviting, yet insistent. He caught himself yawning. He felt very tired indeed. His limbs felt heavier with each note. What a beautiful axe, he thought. It would be the talk of all Sven. The figure seemed to smile, a knowing glint in her glowing emerald eyes. "I wonder if it can cut as well as come." The summons sounded more urgent and commanding as it interrupted his thoughts. He blinked as a second image appeared before him. He saw the boy who had received the golden hen, now at home picking up 2 golden eggs from beneath the hen. His eyes widened. He then saw the girl who received the golden harp in a king's court, playing before a king. "Wow," he thought. "This must be the gift giver," Jack thought, his eyes widening in awe. "Come, come," the voice urged once more, this time with a tone of finality. Jack hesitated, but felt himself drawn forward by his awe of her and the axe. With curiosity outweighing his caution, he took a tentative step towards the shimmering image, and another through the emerald portal to where she stood with the golden axe in her outstretched hands. Up close, its brilliance was even more striking. Jack's breath caught just as the harp's song faded into silence. "Take it. It is yours," she said. Her voice was quiet, yet carried an undeniable authority. He was fascinated by how she could make herself heard without appearing to speak. Jack glanced at the golden axe she held out to him, its intricate engravings catching his eye as it glistened in the moonlight. She waited, unmoving, her gaze steady. Jack suddenly realized that he had been holding his own axe and would need to put it down to take the new axe. He hesitated. "You can put it down, or hand it to me. I will hold on to it for you," she said, her tone calm and reassuring. Jack tightened his grip around his axe. He hadn't counted on this. He rather liked his own axe and didn't wish to leave it with anyone. Whether temporarily or not, the idea felt wrong. It was more than a tool. It was his Dawn Day gift, and Dawn Day gifts were meant to be yours for life, and played a major role in who a Svenian became. It sounded as if she meant for him to leave his axe in exchange for the new axe. He was feeling even more tired than he had been while hearing her play the harp. "Take your new gift, then you can have something to drink and rest a little before returning to your home in Sven," she said. Yeah, he thought. He had been away from home long enough. The golden axe seemed to sparkle with promise. Perhaps this golden axe is the answer to finally getting rid of the tree for good. His axe had only managed to temporarily keep it at bay. The thought of returning to Sven without his axe gnawed at him. But, well, his mission was more crucial. It wasn't practical to work with something so extravagant as a golden axe. But he could use his dad's axe, he thought. They would be okay. He was getting bigger and stronger by the day. Yes, they would be okay. He would work harder. Jack took a deep breath, put his axe down, and took the golden axe. He turned it over in his hands admiringly. It was beautiful. His axe paled in comparison to this masterpiece. He couldn't wait to try it out to see how well it cuts through wood. "How about having something to drink, then take a nap, while I arrange for a guide to help you get back home?" she offered in a soothing, almost motherly voice. She poured a drink from a goblet into a cup and handed it to him. Jack nodded, still turning the golden axe over in his hands, wondering what cool thing it did. Reluctantly, he set it down to take the cup. As he raised it to his lips, a few drops spilled onto his hand. The effect was immediate. His hand lost its color almost instantaneously from his fingertips to his wrist, had turned to stone. Jack gasped, the cup clattering to the floor. Panic surged through him as he stumbled backward. The gift giver moved swiftly, grabbed the goblet, and hurled its remaining contents at Jack. He tried to run towards his axe. His feet suddenly felt heavy as if caught in quicksand. He raised his arm in a futile attempt to shield his face. A sharp cry escaped his lips as he fell, and awoke with a violent start, covered in perspiration. His heart thundered loudly in his chest as he struggled to catch his breath. His left arm and left side of his body felt paralyzed, as though the paralysis from his dream had followed him into waking. In the darkness of the room, he became aware he was not alone. A towering figure stood over him, muscles rippling beneath armor that seemed alive, fused into his very being. The giant's form radiated strength, his presence filling the air. Jack's fear escalated to sheer terror. He tried to move, but his body refused to obey. Just then, a familiar voice broke through his panic. "Jack, I am here," Earth's sunset said softly, stepping into the room. At her words, the tension in his body snapped and his body went limp. Relief overwhelmed him as he crumpled and sobbed uncontrollably.